There's beauty hidden everywhere in this world. Sometimes you just have to look to find it. It was one of the most polluted days of the year in the greater Seoul area, and I'd been spending a lot of time recently escaping the city to the beautiful mountains in Gangwon-do, near the crystal clear East Sea, to enjoy skiing and exploring and get away from the pollution. But it was time to mix it up a bit, and head to an area so close to Seoul, yet I almost never actually go there, nor does anyone I know. A place with factories and ports, always seen as being on the rougher side. This place I'm talking about is Incheon. For those who don't know, Incheon is a port city west of Seoul, formerly called Jemupo, being the gateway to Korea that opened to foreign trade in 1883. These days, it's still the main way for people from other countries to get here, at the Incheon International Airport, the main airport in all of Korea. Incheon typically doesn't get a good rep from Koreans. I've heard many times that it's dangerous, ugly, and run down. But I wanted to try and find beauty in some areas almost no one looks at, on one of the worst days of the year to do so. I decided to give myself some leeway to check out Incheon's surrounding area as well, starting in Siheung to its southeast, to find out a bit how people used to live here, back in the very beginning of Korean life on the peninsula. I arrived at a place called Oido Prehistoric Park, which is among the oldest pieces of evidence of Neolithic life here in Korea, dating back about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, where large piles of shells, animal bones, pottery fragments, and tools were discovered, showcasing Korea's early maritime culture. Nowadays, it has all been rebuilt to exhibit what the villages were probably like. You can see how the people lived, what they ate, and what they did to survive the climate here, which includes everything from very hot and humid summers to very cold and windy winters. Although most of the exhibitions were closed that day, it was a nice place to walk around and explore, with some great walking paths, and the silver reeds actually went along with the polluted sky quite nicely. I got to the top of the observatory where you can look out and see Seongdo normally, an international city nearby. But I was barely able to make out the outlines of the buildings on this very polluted day. I'm not gonna lie, I knew this wouldn't be an easy task to find beauty near so many steel plants and bus depots, so it was looking a bit grim. But I tried not to place judgment, as I got to learn a bit of history to start my adventure, and continued up to Incheon to explore further. While looking at the map, I found a park with a forest inside it called the 미세먼지 차단숲, the forest that blocks fine dust pollution. I thought to myself, that seems like the perfect place for a time like now, to get away from the factories and towards a residential area in southern Incheon, where people probably go on walks or hang out when the weather is nice. You see, Korea comes in many forms depending on the season. You get the beautiful cherry blossoms and flowers in the spring, lush green tropical landscapes in the summer, and amazing fall foliage in the autumn. But during the winter time, the trees are typically bare, which doesn't help much in one of the most polluted seasons here. That's exactly the reason I typically try to get out of the city into the mountains to ski whenever possible. But there must be a way to find beauty here in the city as well, right? To be honest, it's not like I was blown away by what I found at Neulsolgil Park, but it had a cozy vibe to it, with some nice ponds and a cafe in the middle, as well as an area for sheep to roam around, which were bundled inside their warm hut on a cold winter's day. It was definitely a step in the right direction, and I continued on out of the park, discovering some smaller factories, a driving academy with a full-on practice area outside of it, and some older apartment blocks. There was also a commercial area beside it, with various hagwons or academies, franchise restaurants, and some new places I'd never seen before too. Despite its pretty plain appearance from the outside, I was having a good time exploring a new area. observing how people live around here, near Incheon Nonhyeon station. All the food nearby was making me hungry, so I did a quick search and found a place nearby.
감사합니다.
네, 맛있게 드세요.
네, 잘 먹겠습니다.
Sometimes you just have this feeling that things are gonna work out today, which I was feeling quite a bit to start a new day in Incheon and continue my adventure.
약 300m 앞 직진 방향입니다.
I was now in the neighborhood of Seonhak-dong, for the simple reason that I found a free parking spot here, and I found an area that has been mostly unshaped by time, and at the same time, still in use today, called the Seonhak Umsik Tukkwagori, or Seonhak Specialty Food Street. The area was screaming personality, with some very old norebangs, or karaokes, older bars that have stood the test of time, and some mom and pop shops among them, bringing in a bit of warmth as well. There was even a little Buddhist temple built right into an older brick building, with a prayer room on the 3rd floor that I didn't want to disturb with my camera, but I admired its beauty and peace amongst the surrounding, somewhat chaotic atmosphere. There are two ways to look at anything. For Seonhak-dong, one way is that the place is run down and dying, and the other is to look at how amazing it is to be seeing an old preserved food alley. I was just grateful to stumble upon a neighborhood that reminded me more of my first days here in Korea, and I hope it has many years ahead of it. I was trying my best to discover a non-franchise cafe to get a coffee at, but these days it seems like more than restaurants, the franchise cafe chains have mostly taken over. Eventually I did end up finding one called Moon's Coffee, and wow, he makes a nice strong coffee. So give it a visit if that's what you like as well. This stream I stumbled upon must have known what I was up to, playing Claire de Lune on their speakers. I think walking around the park to this song put me into a little bit of a flow state, and made me realize something very important about my search. I'd been looking for something very striking visually, almost like a climax, to show that beauty can be found anywhere. But the reality is, there was something nice about each area I had already visited. The silver reeds in the prehistoric park, the frozen pond, the neighborhood Buddhist temple, and now here, an overpass to watch life go by, and be amazed at just how many people there are on this planet. All of these are things I typically ignore in my daily life, but since I initiated this little search to make a video and look for things in a more intentional manner, I felt inspired by it all, feeling good, on my way to learn a bit about Incheon's history. This is one of Incheon's most notable historical landmarks, Incheon Hyangyo, a government-run Confucian school during the Joseon dynasty that was established in the 14th century. It was used to educate local students in Confucian philosophy and to hold memorial rites honoring Confucius. For those who don't know, Confucius, from the 6th to 5th century BCE, held the belief that a good society starts with good people, and good people are formed through moral self-cultivation and proper relationships, including humaneness, rituals, and filial piety, or respect for parents and ancestors. Confucianism dates back to the 4th century in Korea, but it became officially Confucian in 1392 at the beginning of the Joseon dynasty, and still influences Korean culture to this day. This was my first time visiting Incheon Hyangyo, and I thought it was very beautiful, with some unique multi-level geography, giving it a very grand and nice atmosphere. I can't call this one as much of a hidden gem, but I really enjoyed my visit there. My next stop was picked completely randomly, as I felt I needed to round out my trip with a bit of nature, in hopes to get some views of Incheon from above, nearby at the mountain of Wonjeoksan, a mountain about 200 meters tall. When I arrived there, I noticed a nice neighborhood park, of mostly elderly, with magpies hopping around the ground peacefully, and a frozen stream making its way to the top. Almost every mountain in Korea has its own well-maintained path like this, so even while wearing Vans sneakers with no water, you can easily make your way up to get views of your surroundings. It wasn't a big hike or anything, but there were some nice pagodas at the top to get views of Incheon, and get a feel for what kind of place it is. The people who told me Incheon is dangerous, ugly, and run down were not 100% wrong, nor were they 100% right. I could have spent my whole time there focusing on the negative aspects of it, such as this big industrial area I saw down below, blowing smoke everywhere. But then I would have completely missed out on the beauty that I found everywhere during my 2 days exploring. I barely even scratched the surface, but still saw a variety of Incheon's different forms, the good and the bad. And one thing's for sure, since I had the mindset to look for the beauty within it all, my vision that is usually broad and wide, focused a little bit tighter this time, to see the amazing things around me I almost never see. And because of that, it was a trip very well spent, and one I will always remember. I had run out of time, as it was time to meet my friends to enjoy the night together, this time in the city of Bucheon, just to the east of Incheon. I was heading to an area called Sinjungdong, which I know very well, as I used to live here. It's one of the most developed areas of Bucheon, with massive high-rise apartments everywhere, and tons of businesses nearby. I actually always loved the bar alleyways here that tie everything together, with the flashing signs everywhere, and super lively atmosphere. And I wanted to showcase it just so this video would have a little bit of all of my favorite parts in Korea in it, even though they might not be the most well known outside the country. The nightlife is one of the biggest things that made me fall in love with Korea. I just always loved the chaotic, bright, friendly atmosphere. And I've always felt just as safe at nighttime as I do in the daytime here, which of course as a male is a lot easier for me to feel that way. And it's definitely not perfect, just like everything else I've shown in this video. But I hope you enjoyed it a little bit, and just want to say thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.